Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Brave here again. So like I've said in a couple of previous videos, it is Black History Month here in London in the UK, and I am from a mixed race, multiracial family, which has European, Scottish, English, Irish, Scandinavian, Jamaican, African, Indian, Indigenous, South American, lots and lots of ancestry in my family. So, but like I've said in my other videos, I'm very, very proud of my African DNA. My that comes through from my Jamaican side. So here's another. Oh, excuse me. Here's another poem I've written for my beautiful ancestors who I think the majority that my DNA test said regarding to my African DNA, I think majority I had was Nigerian from that side and Ghanaian and Benin and Togo, which I'm really proud of all of that. I'm a historian, so I look up a lot of history. I know a lot of history. I've researched and read about a lot of history about Africa before slavery, before the disgusting transatlantic slave trade that was allowed to go on for hundreds of years. That is unforgivable and disgusting. And yeah, to think that, Europeans were just jealous of the beautiful, amazing civilizations they encountered when they went to Africa, but, in the beginning, and then they saw how amazing it was and wanted to destroy it and plunder it. And, unfortunately, you know, they let people in who had bad intentions and they didn't check what their motives were beforehand. They didn't keep their sword ready just in case these people were lying when they said, hey, we're your friends, yeah, let us in and let us sit and eat with you. Oh, we don't mean you any harm. And then they come back with multiple armies to kill you or sell you into slavery. But yeah, so a quote I'd like to say first before I read my poem is by Dr. John Henrik Clarke, and he was of African descent, even though he has a European name, because most people of African descent, wherever they are in the world, even if you've just got a little bit of African, if you're mixed, but you'll always have, if you're born outside of Africa, you'll probably have a European name. Like everyone in Jamaica has a Scottish, English, or Irish surname because of slavery, because your identity was stripped from you when you were taken as a slave. You weren't allowed to be who you truly were. Your spirit was broken and you were forced to be something you weren't. So the quote is, the biggest mistake that Africans have made was to allow strangers into their home without knowing what their intentions were. And I totally agree with that. And then another quote I thought was really interesting was by Simone de Beauvoir. And she was, I can't remember what, I think she was an abolitionist. But anyway, her quote is, the oppressor would not be so strong if they did not have accomplices among the oppressed. And sadly, that is very true. When people taking people into slavery, there was only a few of them compared to the hundreds of people they were enslaving. So obviously they have to ambush people, and get them, defenseless and tie them up or whatever. But then when you've got 100 slaves and only one overseer or one person who's meant to control them, if all those slaves had one mind to say, let's all jump him and leave, how would that one man fight off 100 slaves? But in order to break everyone's spirit and turn them against each other, they would do certain things that would then break everyone's spirit and turn them against each other. They would turn the woman against the man against the woman, the adult against the child. It was all psychological brainwashing and psychological warfare. And it's such a sick thing, because, and then also if you take people from multiple different parts of Africa who can't speak the same language, they won't automatically see another person who has the same color and feel a connection to them, because obviously they did not know that, oh, if we all work together, we will stop something that will be an atrocity going on for 300 years. If we stop it now, slavery can't exist for the next 300 years. They didn't know what was going on. They were all victims of a kidnapping and then being tortured and forced to be slaves, you know? So it's like, even when I've researched slavery and found that there were black, people selling prisoners of war from other tribes. So these are people they did not see a connection to. They were the same color, but they were their enemies anyway. So I'm not condoning it. I'm disgusted by that. But they didn't know that, oh, okay, if I sell these enemies that I was going to kill anyway, I get some trade of goods from Europe, which I didn't have before, and I've got rid of my enemies and I increase my riches. But it's so sad that they don't realize the part they played in helping create, the slave trade, because they made it easily accessible for the Europeans to just buy people, because the ones in, who had, the black tribe who had captured other black tribes, they were making it easier for them. So that is what this quote means when it says the oppressor would not be so strong if they did not have accomplices among the oppressed. But yet those kings or those particular tribes who were selling black people, they didn't see themselves as oppressed, even though how many centuries after would you then be put in chains? The same one who was selling off other tribes, soon you would be put in chains because you run out of people to kidnap, they kidnap you. It's so sad, it's so sick. And, when you realize how, it didn't occur to them that, well, where are they taking up these people? Even though they're not our tribe, where are you taking them? What are you doing with them? Why do you want them? And if they had seen other tribes as, these are my own people because we share the same color, they would think, no, I'm not going to sell my people to these strangers. Who are they? Why do they want them? But sadly, because human beings always look for a reason to hate or divide each other, or, conquer each other, and they make up silly reasons to do it. It's like, sadly, they helped send their own people to the slaughter, to be raped and tortured for hundreds of years, many generations, abused and tortured and kept in chains, born into slavery. Like, even now, like, the effects of slavery and the lies that were told about black people to the world by those people trying to enslave them and successfully enslaving them when they couldn't enslave them anymore, because obviously they had to try and justify why they were doing this evil thing to these people. They had to say, oh, don't worry about them, don't feel sorry for them, they're animals, they're not human, they're nothing, they don't have a soul, they're not intelligent like us. They had to justify it because they knew what they were doing was sick and an atrocity. Why would they need to put a law in place that you don't educate black people? I thought they weren't human. I thought they didn't have a brain. I thought they weren't capable of learning. So why is it important for you to stop them learning? Because they're intelligent, whether you teach them or not, because they're normal human beings. You know what I mean? But it's so sick how, so many people just believe the lie. That's the weirdest thing. Why did you believe the lie? Just because their skin was a different color? Absolutely disgusting. But yes, let me read my poem. So it's called Never Be Like the Evil We're Fighting Against. We descend from warriors. So here we go. Through the corridor of time, one thing that destroys like a landmine, many people with mouths of lies, so much deceit and bad intentions in their eyes. The proof they cannot hide of the evil they tried to justify. So much injustice, hypocrisy, and oppression, causing riots in the streets. They took everything we had, and yet it still was not enough. to gratify the monstrous minds full of hate, greed, and sloth. From cradle to grave, the game was set against us, but we will fight the good fight, relentless. I never want to hear your excuses. How dare you pretend you had never abused generations of human beings who had the birthright to be free? We despise your lies, your hate, your evil heart. You knew you were wrong right from the very start. It could all be so simple, but you'd rather make it hard, needlessly leaving many generations scarred. How dare you refuse to treat people fairly and equally? You put people in chains. What's been done is unforgivable and absolutely insane, leaving us with unforgettable and never-ending generational pain. Our ancestors' cries fell on deaf ears and sadly magnified the fears that the ones that we held dear could be sold and bought without any remorse or sympathetic thought. But our ancestors carried a fire and a courage in their hearts to fight, to move them through the darkest night. An unbreakable warrior spirit that reminded them to take back their rights. The blood and the pain overflowed like dirt in the rain, but the war is not yet over. Society must go much further to make sure that history's past stain cannot sustain, fighting to remain free of the nights of terror that many had no choice but to see. We break chains, we teach all brains by exposing history's evil false claims of our people. For your descendants, the walk has been hard, but with the strength of our bloodlines, we will always be on guard. To keep fighting against injustice, oppression, and the like, because we refuse to endure more scars and lose our birthright. I don't want anyone to die for me, don't cry for me, just live for me, and just fight till we are all set free. To stop history repeating is our main goal. We're passing on the knowledge to remind all not to be a sellout and always be proud of who you are, and to never forget the greatness from which we came from, and to never be afraid to shout it aloud. We must be the change we want to see in the world. We must refuse to be like the evil we are fighting against. We need to remember to unite, live and let live, and help each other fight. Dear ancestors, please watch over us. Please walk by our side and protect us. In times of trouble, I remember what you endured, and I remember that you had survived worse atrocities, and so I must get up every time the bad of this world knocks me down and treats me unfairly, and remember to bow my head to never bow my head to anyone ever. Ancestors, lend us your strength, keep us close, lift us up when we think we can't go on, keep us safe till we depart this world, then come to take us home, safe and sound. So that is my poem for my beautiful, strong warrior ancestors. And I don't want anyone who's not from an African background or a mixed race background or a Jamaican background, anyone who's, not, from that culture, you don't have to feel guilty because you're white or you're Chinese or you're Indian, because at the end of the day, if you're a good person and you're not racist and you don't go out your way to hurt others, there's no problem with you saying, I'm happy being white or Chinese or Indian. No one's saying that be ashamed because of what your ancestors did. Yes, be ashamed of them, the bad people in the past, whether you're related to them or not. Be ashamed of any bad person. It's good against evil. I'm related to English people who could have, if I'm mixed race and my family is mixed race, multiracial, that means the mixed race ancestors I had were a product of rape, which meant they have the blood of the slave owner in their veins, which they did not choose to have, So I'm not gonna, stick up for any evil slave owner just because I'm related to them. I'm always going to be on the side of the victim, and the oppressed. But at the same time, because I have that blood in my veins, I shouldn't be blamed for anything that evil person did. So yeah, I don't want anyone to think that I'm bashing on other races. All I'm doing is expressing myself and how sad I am that slavery was allowed to happen. And even though I didn't experience it personally, I don't care. Any atrocity that happens in the world affects me. I feel pain and sorrow and sadness for anyone of any race, any background, who suffers pain and misery. That's what being a good person is. You feel empathy for other people. You don't want other people to suffer. Just like you don't want to suffer, you want to take away other people's suffering. That's what being a good person is. That's what being pure of heart is. So if you can overlook atrocities and suffering, you are evil, something is wrong with you. Ugh, yuck, ew. Like, I can't stand people who are just like, oh, well, why do I have to care about slavery? I'm not black. Why do I have to care about the Holocaust? I'm not Jewish. No, you should care. If you were a good person who's pure of heart and decent, with integrity and dignity, you would care. Because it's not about, oh, well, I'm not part of those people. That's not the point. The point is, people were tortured or killed or, unfairly put in chains. Like, you should care about that. You should have some sympathy and empathy for that. And if you don't, something is wrong with you. You're evil. Because I don't need to know a person to feel sorry for their pain. You understand me? I don't need to, be of a certain group or a race in order to feel pity and sadness and sorrow for their pain. You know what I mean? I'm not American, but when 9/11 happened, me and the whole of England, we were so sad for their pain. It was a terrible, horrific moment, and we had to watch it happen like everyone else on the TV, watch those terrible events take place and unfold. And we felt terrible for what they were going through. And I can't speak for everyone in England, but all the people I was around, we were all just horrified and wishing that we could do something to help, but we couldn't. But just sending our prayers up and hoping that you know just wanting to take their pain away. That is a person of pure heart and decency. Anyway, I wish everyone love, peace and protection, and God bless you all. That's all right now, so take care. Bye for now.